It's a landlord's worst nightmare. A tenant has turned a rental property into a marijuana grow house. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you out of California. But before I get into this article, please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and hit that like button. Maybe leave a comment down below so I can keep bringing you great articles of issues, things that have to do with of interest to landlords. Okay, this channel is dedicated to landlords and the things that we go through, and I absolutely love bringing you great content. So this article comes to us from NBCWashington.com, and it says, "It was shocking. Tenant turns California rental property into elaborate marijuana operation." Legalizing marijuana in California hasn't helped get rid of black market pot operations. In fact, the NBC4i team discovered illegal grows have exploded during the pandemic. The situation turned into one homeowner's rental nightmare. For more than 20 years, Joe Skibby rented her property in Rancho Cucamonga with no problems. That changed last year when the man who appeared to be the perfect tenant turned out to be anything but. Yeah, I mean, as a landlord, I know for a fact that I can't control everything that a tenant is going to be doing inside my property. I just can't. Okay, I can screen to the best of my abilities. I can check backgrounds, I can check criminal history, I can check credit history, and references, etc. But I can't guarantee that even with all of that, the tenants that I put into my properties are going to be law-abiding and overall good people. So I imagine that for this landlord, this was pretty devastating to have their property basically abused like that and to be involved in this sort of criminal enterprise. What was once a beautifully maintained 5-bedroom, 4-bath house is now just a damaged shell of its former self. It was shocking, okay? Every turn I made, I saw something else, said Skibby. It was heartbreaking for me. She had no idea the tenant she'd found for her rental home had turned into a sophisticated grow house. My realtor felt that it was great that he offered 6 months rent up front, Skibby said. All right, that right there is a red flag for me. Okay, I've had tenants come up and offer me a year in rent up front, right? And no explanation of where they got the money, no explanation of anything. And I was very, very wary of that, okay? They wanted to get in immediately, not have to wait for me to get through my checks or anything. And I'm, you know what, listen. I am not desperate for tenants, okay? I've got more tenants than I can count, so I can choose the most qualified tenant, and you giving me a year of rent up front isn't going to cover my cost if you go in there and completely trash my house. So that I don't fall for that. I don't immediately turn over and say, oh yeah, look at this pile of money, I'll take it. I mean, you have to still use your brain, and I've heard of so many bad situations where questionable tenants will try that tactic in order to get into a house. But in the months Skibby rented to this tenant, an elaborate illegal marijuana operation was underway. She didn't discover it until he missed some rent payments, and she stopped by to check on the property. By the time she called sheriff's deputies and they got a search warrant and raided the house a few days later, the crooks had cleared out, leaving an unbelievable mess behind. Yeah. So, as you can see by the story, even though they paid 6 months rent up front, then they immediately missed some rent payments. I mean, see what, when you have a bad tenant in your property, they will do anything to get in and try to get over on you. So, and of course, they tore the property completely apart doing their illegal grow operation. Then they completely skip out on you. I mean, this ended up being a bad tenant. Now, I don't know what this landlord did in terms of screening, but hopefully you would be able to pick up some clues that, hey, this was not a good tenant. And if she has this person's information, then maybe she could turn it over to the police, and I still would sue them for any damages, even if they're going to go to jail for a while. Get their wages garnished or whatever. I know they probably don't have any wages, but do whatever it takes. Try to get you any money back you can. This whole house was turned into a production where every room is used as a staging facility for the next grow cycle, said Lieutenant Mark Bracco of the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department Gangs and Narcotics Division. And the I-Team has learned that massive indoor grows like this one pose a danger to entire neighborhoods. One grow on a full-size house can draw power of what 30 houses use, said Lieutenant Bracco. That then strains the transformer that's in the neighborhood and can cause an explosion and fire. Skibby discovered the electricity to power the grow operation inside her property was stolen from SoCal Edison right at the curb and diverted from the meter, leaving the utility in the dark about the theft. Yeah, I work in law enforcement, so I do hear about this kind of thing happening all the time. So, yeah, you hear about these grow houses, and they put off an enormous amount of heat. And so what police departments used to do was fly over and just look for houses where there's huge amount of heat because they're using so much power and lights and everything in the house. So they would look for houses with all this heat coming out of it, and then they would look at utility records trying to figure out why is this one house using so much electricity. But in this case, they didn't do that, and plus the people were stealing electricity from the utility company, so there was no knowledge that these people were running this illegal grow operation in this house. So man, it's kind of crazy, and I can't even imagine how much it's going to cost for this lady to clean this place up. They probably used about $5,000 worth of electricity a month to man a system like this, estimated Lieutenant Bracco. Stealing electricity is a felony, but illegally cultivating marijuana in every room of a house is just a misdemeanor. It's estimated this was $1 million operation. As I walked through the house, the enormity of the damage was profound. There were large holes throughout the house with venting, said Skibby. There were electrical outlets everywhere, and there were many additional holes just punched through. The damage to the home totaled about $250,000, plus thousands in city code violations. This house is destroyed, said Lieutenant Bracco. Wow. $250,000 worth of damage. I don't know if her insurance is going to cover all that, but even if it does cover a grand majority of it, I mean, there's still all the deductibles and all the little minor stuff the insurance company just won't cover. I mean, this would destroy the grand majority of landlords. So, what is the lesson that I am trying to teach by going over an article like this? I'm trying to teach you about tenant screening, okay? That is one of the keys for landlords, okay? Do that background investigation, okay? If you see minor marijuana offenses on a background investigation, I don't see any problem with just rejecting a tenant with that on there, because that's a red flag right there. You don't know if they're just a user or if they got caught selling or not. Sometimes charges get pled down from selling to just mere possession. So that's a big red flag when I see even a small marijuana conviction on a tenant's background investigation. Run their credit. If the person has a lot of missed payments, etc. I mean, there's a multitude of reasons to deny them. Then okay. Call up their references. Call up their current employer. If the person doesn't have a job, that's a big indicator they can't pay the rent. And don't just blindly accept 6 months rent up front thinking that, this is a good deal. I mean, a lot of people will try to push themselves in and hope that you don't do a background check by giving you a little bit of sum of cash, and you're thinking you're doing good, and this kind of thing could be the result. So in my opinion, just work on your screening as a landlord, and hopefully things like this just won't happen to you.